So this morning, Elle put out a video. This is Elle Vegan Gaze, Gaze, and they do debates. She does debates, and she has this person call in to have this debate. And I just want you to pay attention to his inability to think deeper. So on this channel, we do philosophy through pop culture, and we talk about introspection. I have a philosophical framework called The Levels. As you guys know, it's about thinking deeper, and it's about your relationship with self. So everything in relation to yourself and everything in relation to outside of yourself. And this caller is exactly a perfect example of somebody who like cannot think outside of his bubble. His whole universe is centered around his bubble, which is, okay, we all live in bubbles. Okay, bubbles are perception. That's what they are. They're shared perception or singular perception. And he obviously comes from a specific bubble. And he's just struggling so deeply in this conversation to think deeply at all. He's not stupid. He's not an idiot. But yet, I think there's like a point in the conversation where you almost feel like, oh my God, you're dumb. But then when we talk about language and the way that we're using it, and we talk about it's tied to ableism or, these IQ obsession conversations, I want to get away from all of that and just say like his lack of introspection is so bad that it almost appears like he has no ability to be intellectually sound enough to have the conversation, which is also not true. It's not about saying you're the smartest or best person. It's about realizing our limitations as people are sometimes self-inflicted and not so much so. But I think for introspection, for most people, it is self-inflicted because we're not digging deeper. We're not asking why, we're not being curious. So anytime someone asks me, oh, Brittany, you put yourself on the highest level or the deepest level of your introspection system, it's not that I'm saying I'm smarter or better than you. It's saying that this has been my journey. And like when I have a conversation, you have a conversation, we're having different conversations because you think the center of the universe is your bubble, or you think the center of the universe is Earth or human beings. And I'm saying there's so much more to existence. We just don't even know it yet. So all of that to say, this is all the prep work. Check out this video. You won't see him on screen. He'll just be on an icon, okay?
My thoughts was maybe just to jump to number 2. There's nothing wrong with killing an animal for food. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, that's cool. I can do that one.
Okay. So just to double check, when you say an animal, do you mean any animal?
What was the point again? Where was the...
I'll write it down for you, just so you can see it. Sorry, yeah. You said there is nothing wrong with killing an animal for food. So I want to know that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you mean any animal?
I guess so.
So you're including...
I guess I mean any animal. Yeah.
Okay. So you're including the human animal.
Oh, that's great. That is a good point. Do I mean humans as well? Yeah. No, because I don't really see people as the same as animals.
Okay, so not the same. Okay. So then the question is going to be, what's the morally significant difference between humans and other animals that would justify killing the animals who aren't human for food, but not the humans?
So what's the
morally significant difference? So
morally significant reason for the difference between the two? Yeah. I wouldn't say there's a moral significant difference between the two. I think it's more of, I have things in common with people, with humans. I live quite close to them. I am one, two of them raised me. I'd say the differences that I see between humans and animals is more of one rooted in the culture and tradition that I share with that particular species.
Okay. So at the start, you said you don't see them as morally significant differences though, right? Like none of those. So say, for example, humans didn't live close to you. You didn't have some sort of relationship with them. It was culturally, it wouldn't then suddenly mean it'd be morally, there wouldn't be something morally wrong with killing an animal for food, right? Who's human. Or do you think, what I'm trying to ask is if you take those, because it sounds like you're saying you don't have a morally significant difference, but then you kind of listed some that might be. So I'm trying to work out if you take those away, is it suddenly justified morally to kill the humans for food?
I don't think I understand the question.
Okay,
apologies.
That's fine. I can break it down with something a bit like clearer. So say, for example, I have in a room a dog and a table. And I was asked, like I said, look, don't kick the dog, kick the table. And because the morally significant difference between the table and the dog is that the dog's a sentient being. So that would cause them harm, whereas the table is an inanimate object in space. It's not like a sentient being. So that would be a morally significant difference that would then mean by kicking that dog, I have done something unjustified.
Okay, and so
now, yeah, we've got like a slaughterhouse full of humans, and then we've got a slaughterhouse full of animals who aren't human. So let's say, like, I don't know, pigs. I'm asking you, look, you think it's justified to kind of like bring those pigs into existence to be sent to a slaughterhouse for food, right? But you wouldn't for the human. What's the morally significant difference between the pig and the human in that instance that would justify that act?
Okay. I think the struggle I have with giving you and with answering that particular question probably stems from the bottom line that I don't think I fully grasp what you're saying in terms of like the moral differences. I think.
Did you understand the table and dog analogy?
I did understand the table and dog analogy.
Mm-hmm. Where's the whole
in no certain world would I kick the table or kick the dog.
But in this instance, so when I'm giving that analogy, I'm not trying to capture whether or not you'd do that action. I'm trying to capture that there's two entities in this world. There's a table and there's a dog. There's something about the table that's different from the dog that means I can be justified in punching.
Okay, let's pause here just for a second. So you know how he says, yeah, I did understand it. He didn't understand it. That happens a lot in my line of work. And when you talk to people for a living, they'll say, yeah, I get it. I'm like, no, because you didn't get it, but they think they got it. And so the reason communication is so difficult is because in order for the conversation to move forward, you would have to get it and then we could go to the next step. But you see how they can't advance to the next step of the conversation because he doesn't get it? It's not that he's stupid. It's not that he's dumb. It's not that he's foolish. He just literally doesn't know, nor does he have the ability to actually be aware enough that he doesn't get it. His lack of awareness and understanding that he doesn't get it is stopping him from actually engaging. So even though he's not coming off as defensive initially, even though he's, sort of like, oh, I don't think I understand, he is there. He's also not aware enough that he doesn't get it. So he'll say in one part, I don't get what you're saying. And then also, yeah, I understood the table and dog thing. But did you get it? Because you just said you got it, but then you didn't get it. Right? Okay, Chet says that's so interesting. It's literally not clicking. Oh, and it gets even more interesting because as the conversation progresses, it still doesn't click. Like, it's amazing how many times Elle tries to go around like different ways of explaining it, and he just like can't get it. And that's why I say like my like special interest is philosophy, because I'm trying to figure out why it takes people long to get things, myself included. Like, even with the vegan conversation, I'm going to talk to Elle in the future, maybe next week, about how much I get it, but I'm still like, it's not like, and like that thing is so interesting about people. And I think it's about introspection. It's also about our biological experience. It's also about timing. Like, what needs to happen in our life for something to click, right? That's what's interesting. Okay.
That table or kicking that table, but not the dog. So the focus isn't about whether you do the action. The focus is trying to pass out the difference between these two entities.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Does that kind of make a bit more sense?
No, but I was probably just because I'm not. You're probably talking on levels that I don't really. I don't think I can like give you an answer or answer effectively, not effectively, but in a way that I think accurately would tell you my point of view, because I still don't understand that there's a room, I'm in a room, and I'm not trying to be difficult or upset anyone. I'm genuinely trying to understand your point. So I'm in a room, and the only difference, you're saying the only difference between the dog and the table in that room is that it's right, or it's okay to kick the table, but it's not okay to kick the dog.
No, I'm not saying that's the only one. I'm saying I'm giving a morally significant difference. I'm trying to help you answer the question because let's try it another way. Okay. You're saying there is nothing wrong with killing an animal for food, but a human animal, it would be.
Yes.
Wrong. So what is it about, like, say, a pig? Because I'm assuming you think it's okay morally to kill a pig for food, right?
Yes.
Yes. So what is it about the pig that makes it morally justified to kill them for food?
Because there's I think there's a difference there between the intention. So if I was to kill a pig because I wanted to eat that pig, I don't equate the evilness that you say the act of just doing that is if I needed to eat the pig.
First, we're not talking about needing to. We're just
okay.
It's just like a choice that we're making right at the moment, because like I'm vegan.
Yes.
You know, I'm choosing to not. I can make that choice. And just to be clear, if the intention was to use a human for food, you wouldn't think it's morally justified to kill them for food, would you?
I don't know. I don't think it's difficult because we don't really live in a world where we kill and eat people. We live in a world where we kill and eat animals.
Yeah, and say if we did live in that world, because
listen to this. These
things have happened throughout history. It would be, I'm sure, in your view, unjustified. But would it be unjustified, say, if you were teleported to a world where we do that, we have human farms, would you think it's justified because it's happening?
But see, the problem is, that would never happen. That is so absurd. It may be that for whatever reason, societal breaks down, and we revert back to a time where we are hurting each other and killing each other to take each other's resources, or to defend, whatever it might be. But we know that that's wrong. We know that we shouldn't do it, and it's better to live in a world where we all cooperate, we all get along.
Does he not know what's happening in Palestine or Sudan or Congo? Or is he not watching the news? The idea of living in a world where he thinks we're all getting along and that nobody is destroying each other for resources and that no one is being enslaved and like no one is being eaten and no one is being... The idea that he lives in a bubble where he doesn't even know, like it didn't even come up, is like... And that's what I think is so interesting about vegan arguments in general, because how easy would it be? Like, now I know Elle's format of debating is not to distract people with what about this, because it does turn the conversation like all over the map. So her focus is always veganism, but it would be so hard for me not in that moment to be like, have you heard of Palestine? You ever heard of Palestine? Like, because it's like, hello. So that's what I'm saying about like, when he says, it's like he lives in a land where everybody gets along, where he doesn't think like people are killing each other for land and resources. Isn't that interesting? I'm like, oh, like, how old are you? Where are you living? I assume he's like 25-ish, something like this. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I
don't understand.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm presenting a hypothetical just to see your value system. If I asked you if you had to adopt 3...
Dad says he's looking at the globe with all the children holding hands. That's exactly kumbaya, like we all get along, like absolutely. That's where I feel like he's absolutely living in. And look, I grew up in that bubble where it showed all the multicultural kids and everybody's like getting, you know what I mean? And I'm just sitting here like, I mean, I wish, and also, I wish we were all like getting along and sharing resources and not killing each other but like,
1,000 dogs. How much would you spend on food? It wouldn't be like, oh, well, that would never happen. It would more just be like you would engage, right? And say, oh, God, that would be really expensive. I would probably have to, use my calculator and find out how much I'd have to spend a month. Like, it's just a hypothetical to test what you do in that situation.
Okay.
Discord pointed this out, and I was thinking the same thing, that the icon this caller is calling with is, I think he's a Black celebrity. But the caller is, I'm assuming, white, which is an assumption I'm making. I do not know that this is true. But usually if white people are using Black icons as their profile picture, it's usually a red flag. But I don't know if it looks like a Black celebrity. I feel like that looks like a professional photo of some kind. I'm not sure. But it was like one of those things where Discord's pointing it out. I was thinking it too. Like, is this something? Because it's like, why are you doing that? Unless it's like a character you really love or something. But there is a tip. There's a kind of Discord person. There's a kind of boy on the internet who's a white boy who uses a Black profile. And it's usually a very racist something. Something racist is happening, right? Chet says, I'll call it right now. He's doing digital blackface. Very much could be. Very much could be. Definitely would not be surprised given how the conversation goes. You'll see.
For the reason of understanding
your views, yeah.
My views, okay. But the values that I have, the views that I have, you don't need to give me a hypothetical to understand what they are. You could just ask someone what they believe in, and what they think is right and what they think is wrong. And if you disagree with the things that they say, then as an adult, I can choose to live somewhere else or interact with other.
So he says you don't have to give me a hypothetical. Let's just discuss like what our value. But when she asked him, he couldn't answer. He goes, "We're an adult. Just like tell me what you believe and I'll tell you what I believe and we can discuss it." But she tried that and he literally couldn't do it. So she had to go to the hypothetical because he didn't engage with her directly asking, what is the moral difference?
Other people whose, value system, as you put it, aligns with my own, right?
You can do that, but hypotheticals are really, really helpful because it does demonstrate, human farms would be morally absurd, right?
Yes.
And if we can't find a morally significant difference between a pig and a human that would justify it, it calls to the absurdity of it. And as you've said a couple of times, well, it's kind of hard to envisage because we don't live in that world. Yeah, when you're put in a world where certain things are done and they're done in abundance, it can really muddy whether or not it's acceptable because people kind of adhere to social norms. That's why throughout history, horrific things have happened, probably. Because it happened. And
look, chat, I don't know, because you guys are like, oh, I thought he was black. Maybe I don't know what his skin color is, and I don't think Elle's going to ask, but I don't think this is his photo. So we don't know. But he could be black. He could not be black. I don't know. And that would be interesting to know because I really don't know. But I don't think this is his photo is the reason that we're like questioning it, because it looks like a celebrity photo.
People just,
and it could tell you where he's coming from. It could tell you his background and what he's thinking and why he feels a certain way. Because again, like you are more than your skin color, but also your skin color does impact the way you are brought up in the world. So who knows how, I don't know much about him, which is the problem. Like, oh, where'd you learn that? And who taught it to you? And how'd you come to that conclusion? And, what does that mean for you? Who knows?
Didn't really question it. So this is why it's really important to have hypotheticals. And they're really, so I think we're kind of stuck on like what a morally significant difference would be that would justify, obviously in the UK, over 80% of the pigs are sent to gas chambers. So, what is it that's justifying putting them there? And to be clear, for you, not just like generally, I'm looking for your view, of course.
Yeah, no, of course. I think it's in my opinion, I think it probably would be better.
Do you know what I think might be happening?
Yeah, go on.
Sorry. I don't think you can find a morally significant difference because, to be honest, I can't find one that would justify. Like, I understand we have, humans, pigs, other animals. We all have varying levels of intelligence, even within our own species. So that can't be the reason, because I wouldn't want to like stab unintelligent humans. They're a different species from me. Are people only valuable insofar as whether or not you share a species with them? Like, if you're not human, does everyone suddenly lose their value who's human? No, I don't. I think that's absurd.
No, of course not. Of course not. I think it's got more it's probably more to do with the idea of self-preservation. Humans. I think the difference between humans and animals stem from the things that we share in terms of our commonalities, but also the fact that there's nothing on Earth like people, like humans. I don't know if you would agree with this, but I would.
Is there anything on Earth that's like a kangaroo, or anything on Earth that's like another animal? Like, are we all similar in the ways that we're all similar? You know what I mean? Like, it is an interesting idea. I understand what he means. I get the concept. And also, okay, if you zoom out, Discord with the research, Booty Warrior for President is a rapist. The Booty Warrior is a nickname of Felice Jerome Johnson, an American author and former Kentucky prison inmate who became widely known through a viral interview on a documentary series called Lockup. In the interview, Johnson famously stated in the prison, booty anal sex is more important than food and water, a sentiment that inspired the character at the same name in the series The Boondocks. That's his profile picture. Ew, boys are gross. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Discord, for your investigation. Whoa. Ooh. Well, there you go. See? The suspiciousness. There you go. The idea is like when we say like humans are exempt or humans are special or humans are, it is that idea that I think takes a lot of humility to deconstruct. It's also why a lot of people are religious, because at least through religious, especially patriarchal lore, not only are you special, you're made in the image of God, but there's a hierarchy to your importance, right? It's the hierarchy of the importance, which is also includes like men at the top and women at the bottom. And, you know, this same thing that's why a lot of feminist vegans say, if you're a feminist, you should be vegan, because the male dominance in meat industries and factory farming comes at the direct comes at the expense of these cows that are forcibly inseminated and utilized for their bodies. And it's like, it's really gross, really, when you think about it. So that's why I think it's interesting when we have these conversations about like, how far back are you willing to ask yourself why, and how do you come to this conclusion? And why do you need humans to be special for us to also be important to one another? Like, just because I think I'm valuable and I think you're valuable, yes, there's a part that is because of we're human. I told Elle this from an animal perspective. Obviously, I value humans more than non-human animals, but very, very loosely. Like now at this point, like, yes, I still do. And Elle would agree, if there was a burning building and there was like a baby or an animal, non-human animal, most of us would save the human animal because we're human animals. Yet, when we're not in that position of needing to save or choose, the question is, how do we harm reduce personally, right? And then that's the question, is like, if we're not debating about a life and death circumstance, then how do we just make a decision to eat something different that doesn't have a direct relationship to killing something? And that's that personal responsibility that I think plays into this.
Probably goes far to say is that, you know, we are the most dominant, successful predator that has ever lived, probably on this earth, shown through just our sheer, you know, the sheer dominance that we hold over, you know, its resources, and I think I understand the point that you have. I just think that there are clearer differences between us, rather than just whatever you said, the moral difference or moral significant difference. Is that right?
Yeah. What you're saying, like, if you're taking that to be the justification, it sounds like you're saying might makes right. Is that correct?
Might, what? Say that again. Sorry. Say that slower.
Might makes right. So if I have dominance over an individual, I am justified in dominating over them however I see fit because I'm dominant. Is that the view?
No, it's just inevitable, isn't it? It's, you know, if
I see.
If you have a dominant.
Yeah, sorry. So you're kind of like talking about what is, but veganism is an applied ethic. So it's kind of like what we should do, how we should apply. You know what I mean? So talking about what happens isn't so important in this conversation. We're talking about how we justify the action.
I thought it was, though. I thought it was. It's what we are doing to the animals.
No, what we should be doing to the animals is the important part. We're talking about the justification. It's not about, is it inevitable that someone who has, like, you know, dominance over even another human will assault them, attack them, harm them in some way? Like, there may be an inevitability, but the conversation is more about whether or not we should do that.
This is the rape apologia that ends up coming through in red pill spaces, which is like, men must protect women because women are weak and men will rape them if given the opportunity, which is why women must dress modestly. Otherwise, they're asking predators to look at them in a particular way and target them. And because we live in a prey predator power dynamic, we have to constantly be, you know, at odds with each other and weary of each other and picking each other and so he's in that bubble. I don't know which bubble exactly, but he is in the bubble that says, like, dominance, it is inevitable, which is why men feel entitled to bombing, genociding, killing. And this is, again, going back to that patriarchal, like, dominance hierarchy. We want to dismantle that. We want to eradicate this idea. And I do think, for me personally, just for Brittany, a big part of my plant-based / maybe vegan journey has definitely been around dismantling those systems internally, not just externally. Because I think the one thing I'm going to bring up to Elle when I talk to her is the one part I'm struggling with is like, I know, especially now at 37, the deepness of my embodied spirit knows, like, it's not enough just to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist. It's not enough to say I'm cool with gay people. You have to be anti-homophobia. Like, it's not enough just to say like, hey, as long as trans people are doing that over there, like, no, like, I'm not going to settle for you just not bothering people that are different from you. I need you to understand it's wrong and it's not helpful and it's subjectively wrong, but it's wrong in a way that is real. I'm not making a prescription, but I'm telling you right now in my heart of hearts, I just know there's no room for compromise here in a way that doesn't make me go like this when I look at you. Like when people even litter, I look at them with more judgment than people who eat animals. And the question is, what is that? So that's what I'm going to bring up to her when I talk to her is like, I'm absolutely like, when I see people litter, when I see people being racist, when I see people being homophobic, it's like, but when I see people eating food, I'm like, when I see people eating animals, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, oh, that cow. But also like, I'm not there yet where I look at them like, and the question is, should I be? Is that the goal? Is that veganism, or is veganism a spiritual relationship with harm reduction that says like, I don't want to harm animals directly because then I'm vegan. But if I don't know that I'm there yet embodied where like, if I'm watching a cultural family or something, or Assyrians make kebab or something, I'm going to sit there and be like, oh my God. I'm just like, yeah, like I learned to make that plant-based, but I see why you're eating meat. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the question. Okay. Now what I want to do is this, okay? Because he's going to ramble. I want to skip to timestamp 28 minutes in. So we were about 18 minutes in. Here's 28 minutes in.
Does that make sense?
Kind of, but so far you've said you don't think there's anything that would justify it. Is that correct?
Justify what? Killing them for food?
Yeah. So let me ask a rather ask question. Is there anything that you can present that would justify bringing these animals into existence to kill them for food, like the pig, that then wouldn't apply to a human being?
Again, I'm just really slow. I do apologize.
No, that's
just
fine.
Say it one more time for me.
Yeah. Is there anything like that you could present to say it's justified to bring these pigs into existence to kill them for food?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can present that wouldn't also apply to the human animal? If they were the victim?
No, it would literally just be the fact that it was a person and not a pig. Like if I walked into a room where one dude was cooking a barbecue, and on that barbecue was a pig, and in the other corner there's a guy who's got the same barbecue, but instead on his he's got a person. I'm not gonna want anything to do with barbecue A, barbecue B. Like that's where the problem I have with it comes in, not the fact that saying what's the difference between it being a person or a pig. That's not where I'm coming from.
So wait.
So, okay, a couple of things. One, Chat says, I don't think the point of veganism is being judgmental of humans who eat other animals, despite what the internet tells you. Yes, but listen to what I'm saying. I do judge you if you're racist. I do judge you if you're homophobic and transphobic. Is veganism the same level of agency to sentient beings as it is with human beings? Because if it is, then I better be judging you for eating an animal, because I'm definitely judging you for being racist, and I'm definitely judging you for being homophobic. I'm not condemning you, judging you to hell. I don't believe in hell, but I'm judging you because, hello? Like, do you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying the judgy vegans are wrong. I'm saying maybe they are right. Because maybe if they're seeing animal sentience just as important as individual human sentience, since we're all animals, then I do think there needs to be a follow through of like, what are you doing that for? Like, why would that be your thought process? Like, why do you think that way? Right? So this is what I'm trying to figure out, because if that's what veganism is, I am definitely like, I get it. I'm like, oh, like you value the animal humans, like Indiana, like guys, like not the animal human, sorry, the animal, Indiana Jones. Guys, I wept this week having the realization that Indiana had a mother who labored to bring her into the universe. And I was like, and my partner's like, damn. And I was like, damn. I was like, Indiana Jones is the most important creature in my life. Like, we're spending so much of our time and effort taking care of this person. And me just having the realization that someone labored to bring her into existence so she could live with me for 15, 20 years is like, oh my God, like there's something so important about that, like something so impactful to me about that, you know? And the worst part is my partner's like, maybe she's still alive. And I was like, don't say that. That's even worse. Is Indiana, like Indiana had children. And I'm always thinking like, where are her babies? Where are Indiana's babies? We took her babies. Where are they? Like, I'm devastated. This idea that Indiana was ripped from her babies. And where are her babies? You know, where are the babies she labored for? Where are the babies she has scars on her belly for? And so like, when you think about it from that perspective, like, oh my God, you know, like I start to really, you know, Indiana does not respond to almost like any media of cats except for when baby cats are on my phone. If it's baby cats like howling and like meowing, Indiana comes running with anxiety. She'll be on any part of the house. And if I play a video and I didn't know, it came up on my TikTok one day and Indiana came running and like very upset. And I was like, what? And I realized it was the video and I was like, oh my God. Like, you know, that's very important to me. I find that deeply moving, you know, and important. So again, that's what I'm trying to figure out, you know? So yeah, I'm gonna try to figure it out, right? Chet says, I do judge you if you invite, I know how it is wrong, but pretty much no one does. It's like ignorance allowance. You mean of the veganism? Listen, I that's the problem with this, like you're ignorant, you're stupid, you don't know, you're uneducated. At some point, it is just a fact that all of us are uneducated about everything. Like we can't know everything about everything. Because I've been thinking about this. We're going to talk about this later with the queer collective stuff, but we can't know everything about everything. I was thinking about gaming because recently I was gaming a little bit and you know I'm not much of a gamer. I think the reason I don't like gaming is it is absolutely all consuming. It is just an all consuming hobby. I cannot just enjoy it because I have to learn the moves and I have to learn the defense and the offense and I have to learn how to like switch characters and I'm like, I could be doing anything else with my life. But the problem is like, there is a part of me that's like, oh, it would have been kind of fun to be a gamer. But if I was a gamer, I couldn't be an activist. I could be a Lucy activist, the one that barely knows anything, but like promotes the right people. But I cannot dedicate all of my brain, like to really know something, to be a master of something, to really understand something in depth. You have to dedicate so much of your time to learning this topic, to reading all of the books, to learning all of the history. I mean, the queer collective, we're going to talk about this in a second, but same for veganism or anything else. Like when something is your niche, there are infinite amount of information on this topic. Infinite, right? And here we are expecting all of us to know everything about everything. We can't. This is why I don't judge people for not knowing, but there are some basic things you need to know. I do think you should basically know that bigotry is not good. I do think you should basically know that controlling people against their will is not good. I do think we can basically agree that informed consent is good. I don't think these things require an immense amount of education so much as an immense amount of unlearning, which I think is different. You don't have to know more information, you have to unlearn the information you already know. Like if I asked you, do you think it's okay to force someone to do something they don't want to do? Most people would say no. Okay, then we don't believe in the draft. We don't believe in war. We don't believe in colonization. We don't believe in genocide. We don't believe in medical interference. We don't believe in rape. We don't believe all of these things, right? And so there's that conversation about like, okay, then we can talk about the nuance. So yes, there's a level of, I think with veganism, it's still a struggle for me to judge if people are eating animals, but not judge to condemn, just like, I'll say it this way. I think at this stage in my life, if I was dating, I wouldn't date somebody who wasn't plant-based or open to it. And that's interesting. That talk about changing as you go. And I think that's the difference. Is like, I couldn't imagine at this point in my life dating someone whose whole identity was meat. Even though when my partner married me, one of my identities was meat. So something to think about.
Are you saying that you don't actually find it morally wrong to barbecue the human? You just wouldn't want to associate with the person?
No, there's so much wrong with it. Like,
okay, so can you list them? And we can write them down. Yeah. Can you list what's wrong with killing like breeding a human animal into existence for the purpose of using them for food? So you're saying wrong. So we're talking about like ethics here. So like what would be morally wrong with doing that to a human? Can we list them?
Well, you don't need to list them. You just, it's a person. Okay, wrong.
But can you break it down any further? Because I could.
See. This is the introspection level. Like, can you break it down further? Can you ask why? Can you deconstruct it, pull it apart, learn the details, learn the mechanisms? Guys, deconstruction has two definitions. You can deconstruct from something. That's the Christian bubble. You often hear it that way. And deconstruction by definition just means to pull it apart and understand the details of. When I say philosophical deconstruction, I don't mean to always leave or move away from the something. I mean to understand it better, deconstruct your own brain. I understand the internet uses deconstruction in two different ways. Know which way they're using it based off the context. He lacks introspection, deconstruction. He lacks an ability to ask why. He cannot fathom there's like a deeper answer. He's like, it just is how it is. It just is how it is. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not just how it is. There's more to this.
Okay, go on. Yeah, go on.
So for me, first, the fact that you're like breeding a human into existence for the purpose of using them for food is the main one, which I have, unfortunately, with the rest of the animals, is that you're bringing a sentient being into the world and regarding them and using them as a resource. And you're violating their rights in order to do that. To a human and to a non-human.
Actually, and I think Elle said something really important here that it really hit me emotionally when I processed it, because we're all emotional creatures, right? But imagine you are just brought into existence to die. Like, that's it. Like, you are made with the purpose of dying. Not that you would die because that's the natural part of life, but that you were literally made, someone labored to bring you into existence so they could kill you. If I was a serial killer and I kidnapped somebody and I kept getting them pregnant just to kill their offspring, that would be crazy. If I bred a dog, if I kidnapped 2 dogs and I bred them into existence so they could make puppies so I could just kill them, that would be crazy. I would go to prison. But that's literally what we're doing. We are breeding animals for the sole purpose of killing their offspring. Like, yes, the offspring will be used for food, but what if I had 2 dogs in my house that I bred to make puppies and then I skinned those puppies alive and I ate them? Would you guys call me a farmer? Or would you call the cops on me? Because that's what farmers are doing. They're just not doing it to puppies, not in this country, but they could be doing it in another country, An
animal, yeah.
Okay.
Because I imagine you think that you might not be rights-based, but if, say, for example, there was a stray dog, you wouldn't think, oh, they don't belong to a human or anything like that. Therefore, I can kick them, I can punch them, I can stab them. You wouldn't think that, right?
No. Why would I do that?
So you think you value them.
No.
So you value them, don't you, as individuals, the dog, right then?
I don't. The stray dog I've come across.
The stray dog. Yeah, you would value them. You wouldn't think, oh, they're just some sort of inanimate object. I can do what I want to them, would you?
No, of course not.
Okay, because now you're recognizing in this instance they are also a sentient being, like a human, correct?
No.
You don't think they're sentient?
Well, no. That's not the reason why I would leave it alone.
Oh,
why I wouldn't do anything to it.
Why would you think it's wrong if someone did that action to them?
Because it's not like the guy. There's a good example. What about what happened in Hawaii? The tourist that threw the rock.
Oh, at the seal.
At the seal. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
And so everyone was getting really, really upset. Obviously, followed the guy back to his hotel, punched him in the face. Then they talked about it in I think in some kind of government. So you would say that you don't understand why everyone is getting upset about this one dude who threw a rock at a seal when they're literally sending, millions of other animals to their deaths, or billions, or whatever it is, trillions of animals to their death within the food industry. Is that the point?
This sounds like a topic shift. I'm just asking.
So Elle is really good at keeping people on topic because it really distracts you. But my partner and I looked it up. How many chickens die? Guys, it is crazy. Like, it is actually insane when you look at it, because we were curious. Okay, this is just 2026 U.S. animal kill clock. 30 billion animals have been killed for food this year in the United States. Okay, 8 billion chickens, 200 million turkeys, cattle, pigs, ducks, do you see it? And then it's like, okay, this might be triggering actually. But you think about it from that perspective and you're like, wait, hold on. wait a second, what's happening? Okay, why are we eating these animals? Why are we breeding them into existence? Not to mention deforestation that happens, impact on water, on earth, like access to resources. Like we're sitting here worried about data centers. Y'all got to worry about animals. Like, I know data centers are a problem. I'm with you on that. But you know what else is a problem? The amount of water and land that goes to killing animals, breeding animals, keeping them alive, and feeding them, when we don't need to do this. We don't need to do this. And so again, it's about, do we even need to do this? Why are we doing things we don't need to do that are coming at such a large expense to us, animals, and the planet? Why? So you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely like both suck. And the irony is like, I do kind of think like maybe we could, I'm an offsetter. That's how I harm reduce in my own life. Like, is it wrong to have data centers if we have the resources, or is it wrong to have data centers because we don't have the resources? But it is definitely wrong to kill animals, because like, why are we taking a life unnecessarily? Like, at least with veganism, it's definitely like, there's a reason it's wrong. It's killing someone directly. Data centers, are they wrong because the way people capitalize on them, because the way they hurt the earth? Could we have more resources if we didn't have animal agriculture? So a lot of questions I'm too stupid to answer because I'm not educated. Okay. But something to think about. Okay.
I can help you veganize your meal. It's nice when I speak to someone in the UK, because I can advise on brands and stuff like that. If you did want to do that, I would take the time to help you.
I appreciate I appreciate that, but I
skipped a little forward. Now we're at the timestamp for 40. Chad said, would it be ethically wrong to eat an animal that was given a great quality of life and was killed without suffering? It depends on why you feel. Again, are you entitled to that animal's body? Who's the decision maker on that? Did the animal consent, or did you decide it was time for that animal to die? Right? This goes back to the death penalty, which I'm anti-death penalty. I don't think the government has the right to kill people because they committed a crime, right? So this goes back to your values overall. Do we think the government has the right to decide which human beings they deserve to kill? Like, who gets to make these decisions, right? Now, it's different with assisted dying. Those people sign up, they want to die. They're making the decision. They're consenting. Okay, that's different. But who's the person who gets to come in and say, it's your turn to die? You know?
I don't think I would ever not include, fish, meat, eggs, and dairy in my diet.
But you've just told me that you can't find a moral justification for doing so.
Yeah.
So you're telling me now you can't see yourself acting in accordance with your own value system?
No, I'm saying I don't think I need to do that in order to be okay with it.
So you can be okay with something without having a moral justification?
Yes.
I think if you ever wonder why someone's done anything
If I can do that, then yes, I can.
Well, if
that makes sense. The
thing is, if you ever wonder why anyone has ever done anything bad to you, and while they continue to do so, you now have your answer, because you may do the same. Okay. So if you want to live in a world that's better, you have to begin with the self. Otherwise, we can't expect anything else of someone else.
No.
I want to see a better world, so I'll behave that way. Like, I don't. Yeah, no. Come on.
Yeah. No. I know. I think.
I think you're digging your heels in a minute, which is absolutely fine to do, by the way, if you are doing that. Okay, I'm not in your brain, but like, if someone I'll give you, it's difficult when someone's telling you a thing that you really thought was absolutely fine to do. It's suddenly like, oh wait, I have no justification for this at all. I haven't questioned this at all. The people around me who I love and regard good people, they do these things, and it's actually wrong. Yeah. That's really hard to digest. But I'm telling you now, you don't have to tell me you're going to be vegan right now or anything on the spot. I'm just telling you, I would be more than happy to help you to actually engage in away from something that you can't even justify. I would do that. It doesn't need to be now, but I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because if you can't justify it, and sentient beings are being sent to gas chambers, which they are. I was literally 2 weeks ago standing outside looking at pigs, and I ended up crying my eyes out, actually, which I don't usually do. Usually I just get very annoyed. Yeah. And I saw the pigs in the eyes before they were sent, like moments before they were sent off to be gassed. And it is shocking, because then if you want, we could go to your number one claim, which is vegans appear to be angry, conflicted, and passionate people. Why wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't I be angry if someone people get more angry than I do. I try and be a bit more chill and about the arguments and stuff like that. But I want it to be very clear. It is an underreaction. If they were dogs being sent to gas chambers, people would be crowbarring the lorries. They'd be smashing the windows. They'd be punching the living shit out of the lorries.
Well, some people would be, because it's happening right now and a lot of people aren't bothered to be upset about it. And this is why I say it's interesting to live in a world where like we make claims like if this was happening to people, we would care. But it is happening to people and plenty of people don't care. So we have to be careful with this idea of like equating. The thing is about human beings as an animal species is we don't actually care. We care when we care, and that's when we care. The question is, and I think Elle was making the point, when and how do we decide to care, and how should, that's why I feel like veganism for me might end up being like very personal. Like, I don't want to be responsible. I'm going to start with myself. I'm not sure how much that plays into my activism down the line, because I would say that my activism includes advocating for a world that I want without making prescriptions, but rather, like, I'm not saying you ought to be vegan. I'm not even saying you ought to be anti-racist. I'm saying you ought to consider that if you choose to be bigoted and hateful, that you are making the world a worse place. And then you get to decide how you feel about that, instead of me saying like, you should be, you have to be. It's like, I don't want to control you, but also you might be the problem.
Lorry driver, you know, that's what they'd be doing. So it is an underreaction when we are angry or conflicted or passionate. Like, but yeah, I'm furious, and I think you should be as well. We're talking about trillions of sentient beings being sent to their deaths by human intervention, some of whom, well, the majority of whom are purposefully being bred into existence just for us. They're being brought to the torture dungeon by human beings for no reason, that reason that we can't justify. So yeah, if they are angry, I just accept claim one and be like, that is fair enough. They should be angrier.
Yeah. I think what I kind of meant by that was more rooted in you know, there are groups of people that have one really intense belief or point of view about a really hyper specific part of our lives, and that, you know, whether they're religious groups or social groups like vegans, you know, I see a lot of vegans online, especially the ones that create content, whether they're like videos, long form videos, or, you know, short form videos, and they just seem like really, obviously they feel very passionate about animals, and they feel very close to you know, to animals, but they just seem really sort of obsessed to the point that I can't see it being helpful to.
Okay, I just want to say, so this part of the conversation is going to be, if you care too much, you're cringe. And I do think there's a level of that is intuitively correct, because any obsessive behavior should feel uncomfortable to us. But there is a difference between being obsessed and kind of like fanatic, because fanatics, like, to be a fanatic is dangerous. And the difference between standing up for what's right. And I do think it's a fine line. And that's why you need the wisdom to be a leader. It's why not all people are good leaders. Not all people are good advocates. Like, I like a lot of the vegans that I watch, but there's a couple of specific white women vegans particularly, and I'm going to bring this up. If it comes up, I'm hoping it doesn't come up in the conversation with Elle and the vegans, because I think there's going to be a couple of them there when we talk next week or whenever it is. I really hope they don't talk about this with me, but if they bring up Black people, I'm going to get really annoyed, because that's what they were doing initially. And I was like, I don't want to talk to any of you who are talking about Black people. I don't want to talk about Black people. I want to talk about veganism. And I don't want to hear any white people talk about, oh, like, I saw this one white vegan go to this Black guy from the UK and say like, you know, they used to do this to your people. Okay, no. Like, I don't want to have that conversation, because it's the wrong conversation. It's so like devoid of empathy that I don't understand why you're talking about it when anti-Blackness is so prevalent globally. So I'm really hoping they don't bring this up to me, because I'm going to get annoyed. But I want to talk about veganism in a way that I think we can stay on the point, but I do get annoyed, because that's what people were saying to me in my comment section. Like, Brittany, you can't say you're 30-day racist or anti-racist and now you're not racist. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I wish it was done differently. Like, I wish they were communicating it differently. So I think I've been using, if you guys haven't noticed, in my own rhetoric, I've been saying like women's right to vote, because that's legal. It's very specific. We have the right to vote. It's being threatened to taken away. But I don't like the idea of them saying, it about Black people because of the way that Black communities have been connected to or associated with like animals. I think that's wrong. Though I do, because I am a woman, do relate to the comparison of the female cow being assaulted and impregnated. That's very relatable to me. So I think that's why I'm sticking to that example, because I wouldn't relate to it. And 2, makes a lot of sense. And 3, I think is much more digestible than that other argument they use. Also, I don't trust these white vegans to be anti-racism or racist. And that's the other part of it, is I don't trust them as white people because they don't advocate for Black people in any of their media, to actually not just be weaponizing Black pain to fight for the injustice done to animals, because where's you fighting for the injustice done to Black people? You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, I don't trust you. So anyways, hopefully they don't bring it up with me, but I do find that that is one of the problems with the rhetoric and the way that we're talking about these topics. So hold on, let me go back to him really fast.
You to be that.
Oh, he's talking about the extreme activists and how they're off-putting. Well, the thing is that regardless of how off-putting some of these vegans have been, it has been a good thing for me to make sure that I keep researching, to make sure I keep saying, even though these people are off-putting, what about these people? Are they off-putting? Who is talking about veganism? Because there are a lot of Black and Indigenous vegans, and they're much better, right? So that's why I'm glad that I didn't see the racist white vegans and go, fuck veganism, because I was upset at first. And I'm glad I kept researching. I think it is all of our responsibility to decide, am I mad about the branding or am I agreeing with the message? So this goes back to the why fascists love Star Wars, why fascists love Captain America and Superman. They love the aesthetic, but not the ethics. Do we love the aesthetic of veganism, or do we agree with the ethics? I think like I agree with the ethics more than I like the aesthetic, or sometimes I even like the aesthetic more than I like the ethics. Like, I think that's the thing, is like, what do I agree with, even if I don't love how certain people are spreading the message? And then kind of go from there, something like that.
Agree to be that sort of, twisted and hateful. I don't think it would be good for me if I was to let myself become, a crusader in a war that I have such sort of strong beliefs in.
So are you against?
I don't think I'd get anything done.
Are you more against specific communities that focus on one social issue? Like, say, for example...
No. I think they share lots of common traits. That's all.
This is a conservative talking point as well, because conservatives, like, what group who's doing activism work doesn't and will not come off as like a lot, right? What about that whole group of white nationalists that got out of FedEx trucks or whatever, U-Haul trucks, and started walking around in their khakis and stuff? Like, that doesn't look crazy to you too? Like, that's the thing, is like, what? Now there's, okay, but this is like the enlightened centrist, like, oh, people are too extreme for me. And whether you've got tiki torches or blue hair and a septum piercing, it's too much. So is he an enlightened centrist kind of boy who's like, I don't have to think deeply about anything because all of this is so silly and I'm not the silly one, you're the silly one. And that's why I say this is the example of a person who's not, he doesn't have to think deeper. He's the most superficial thinker I have listened to in a long time. And I don't know where his background is and where he's coming from and how old he is, but he's going to say something about how most people think. And I'm like, that's you. So listen to this.
I wouldn't see a problem with that. It's just communities who are advocating for a social group.
Absolutely. And that's why I think, it does give people identity. It gives people a home. It gives them, something to focus on, gives them structure. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think I can't.
Structure, community, consistency, the 3 things science has proved we all need, which is why people end up in groups. But also there's a lot of groups where you can get that from, where it's actually good for people. That's the point. Am I joining this group to get those 3 things from the wrong group or the right group?
I look at that and I just, I don't just have the time.
Well, that's fair enough if you don't think it make you happy, but you just listed reasons why it actually might satiate someone on a spiritual or personal level. It might give them a sense of community. It may give them a sense of purpose. For me, I just literally once I saw what happened, I just, beyond my even desire, have a drive to speak about it. I cannot I must speak about it. Obviously I care about other things and I focus on other things, but
this is a great example too of the work that I do. Guys, I'm disabled, I'm autistic, I'm queer. I could have made my content any of those things, only make videos about autism, just make videos about being queer, just make videos about this. And those YouTubers love them. I make videos about philosophy because that's my special interest. That's the most, I have philosophical autism, existential dread autism. So like, that's the most important thing to me. And I incorporate all of my identities in the work that I do. But for Elle, who is a lesbian, the most important thing for her is veganism. Even though she does, participate in advocating for LGBT rights, as far as I know, it's not her channel. It's not her thing. But she's a lesbian. And last time we spoke, she was getting assessed for autism. So you know what I'm saying? Some of us, all of us have a calling in a direction. And the question is, do we know our calling? The question is, what made this person call into the show? That's what I want to know. What made this human being call into the show and take Elle's time and ask these questions? And are you asking because you want to change your mind? Are you asking because you're curious? Because he said, I'm never going to imagine a version of myself, never, 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 that isn't eating eggs, milk, and dairy. So why are you calling into a vegan show? If you are never going to be vegan, why are you bothering her? Some people they don't even think. You know what I'm saying? Why are you bothering people? Okay? Chad says, yes, I love how your channel is about philosophy because it connects to everything. Yes, it does. Love that. And look, that's my thing. That's the reason I chose this particular avenue of career, because I knew I could do this every day, all day. You know what I couldn't do? Argue with people about veganism all day. Pfft. Elle has the patience of a vegan saint.
This is my kind of main thing. It's just what I'm driven to do. I don't think I get specifically any less happiness from being passionate or angry about this. And as I said, I've explained why it's kind of infuriating that someone is sending animals to their deaths and contributing to it and they can't justify it, which often, unfortunately, happens when I have discussions with people. They can't explain what would justify it. And we went through that together. And I can see why.
48 minutes into this conversation and he doesn't get it. Not curious, not open-minded, not thinking about it. I created this new thing because of the Discord. We had a discussion this last week and I was like, on Brittany's curiosity scale, this guy is like a 1.5 out of 10. I'll give him a 2 at most for calling into the show, but 1.5 curiosity scale.
People are angry about it. I try not to express my anger. I just want to kind of talk through it. And because I don't get why, as soon as someone realizes there's a contradiction in their worldview or they can't justify something, why they carry on or even defend it. Like at the very least, if you really think right now, I
think it's a biological experience that stops us from having what we call a choice or free will. This is why I say free will is kind of an illusion, but I do think when you're ready, you're going to be ready, which is why we have to keep doing the work, even if we're not ready. And again, I think that is what's so interesting about people. Why can't I change when I'm ready? No. Why can't I change when I think I want to? Why can't I be that gym girly? Why can't I be the girly who wakes up at 5 a.m. every day and works out for 2 hours? Why can't I be the version of Brittany in her head? Because I'm not. Oh, but why can't you just change? Just be it. Force yourself. Push yourself. It's the hardest part about being a person is I want to be this person. I can't be this person. I'm not happy being this person either. Remember going back to what my therapist told me? My vision for myself was the girly who wakes up at 5 a.m., who works out for 2 hours, works on her book or insert hobby here, then goes to work, then comes home, has kisses the wife and kids, da-da-da-da-da. This was my ideal life, girl. Not me. Not who I am. Not who I am. But, and that's why my therapist told me, stop trying to be the version of you in your head. Just be a happy, joyful person and accept it for what it is. It's pretty damn good. I think it is better than that, Miranda Hobbs, Miranda Priestley, Sex and the City, Samantha Jones version of my life I thought was supposed to be. And at the same time, even in this version of myself, there are so many things I wish I could do more of, but I don't have the spoons for. But at the same time, we pick and choose. Even today's stream, I always have to pick and choose what stories I cover because there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but there's never enough spoons and never enough time. but great lineup today, honestly, great lineup today. But there were so many other things I want to talk to you about. And I just like, I got to sit there and prep and decide like, which one do I give my attention to first? So many books to read, so many movies to watch, so many people to talk to, not enough time, you know?
I'm not going to stop doing this thing that I can't justify. Don't stand in the way of people who will take that effort, who will just put their hand somewhere else for something that they can justify, I'd say. But I just grant that. Maybe they are angry. Maybe they are focused. I think it's good to focus on something that isn't yourself or someone who isn't yourself. And yeah, maybe that can generate bad feelings for them. It may generate good. I think I'd find it difficult to measure the net feelings that would produce. But I think it's important. And, you know,
in a lot of those, in a lot of those videos that I've seen, where
give an example. Like, do you know a person who you're trying to? Sorry to interrupt, but like you're
you're fine.
Like,
okay, I'm gonna skip a little bit.
Pops now, being in public and then like having a sign or something, or like.
Okay, so he gave examples. He talked for a little while. It was nothing. And then he's like, those people who stand outside in public, they're handing out signs. They're like talking to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, handing out literature.
Oh, I do that. Yeah, I do that.
No, like whether you were doing that for religious reasons or the social reasons or again animal reasons, I could never do that. That would be absolutely terrible.
So he's not an activist. He's never done activism. He's never thought about advocating for something. He's never thought about making himself uncomfortable. He probably sees it as an annoyance, which, to be fair, I think we've all been annoyed by Christian evangelicals on the side of the street. Though, to be fair, the most annoying ones are the ones who are like, gay is a sin or something obnoxious, which we agree is obnoxious. But we think it's obnoxious because they're hateful. Not so much because they're out there. Like, I think like communities doing outreach is almost always fine unless they're like, their message is hateful on their signs. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to read gay is a sin versus Jesus loves you all? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really about how you do it.
Fine, having to, having to talk. But sorry, I digress. I think a lot of those people who are just sort of going about their normal life aren't really prepared for a particular debate with someone who has really militant views and really stringent in-group, out-group, what's the word I'm looking for? In-group, out-group ideas. Like the average person isn't ready to discuss, logic theories.
Does he think he's ready? He's the average person he's describing. Why would you come into L's space, bother L, why would you bother all these people in this thing? Like, why would you come into this space and then do this? He's that average person. You don't have the introspection. You don't have the research. You have none of the data. You're not open-minded. You're not even willing to change. Why are you taking up an hour of L's time? This is what I'm saying when I say, like, on my scale system, on my level system, he is just thinking about himself in relation to the bubble, and he thinks his bubble is the whole world. And I'm saying this is the problem with twos, because you can be a joyful two, absolutely, right? But he is just like the type of two that like is existing in the world, and he has no self-awareness, and he has no introspective skills. He's not a one, which is very different. He's very functional within his bubble, but his bubble is so self-limiting. And because of the self-limitation, he's looking at L like, hey, dude, you guys are kind of crazy for doing this, right? But like, you didn't have to come in here. Elle's minding her business on her channel, minding her business. And then this guy's like, I'm going to make your business my business. And I'm like, okay, what's up? And then he can't even explain his thought process. Here's Elle doing all of this research, all of this activism, all of this education for herself, for her own, to be good at her job. And then here this guy comes in and she's like, so why do you believe what you believe? He's like, what? What do I believe? What I believe? What? I'm like a human. She's like, yeah, what does that mean to be a human? He's like, I exist. And she's like, okay, so like, what does it mean to like exist? And he's like, what? Why are you even asking me that question? Like he doesn't even understand the concept of like what is supposed to be happening during this conversation. This is why I say, like, if I did a call-in show, I'm terrified that these are the callers I'm going to get, because I'm like, but then it kind of proves my point. It's not like, again, people always say like, oh, Brittany thinks she's smarter than everyone else. I'm not even smarter than everyone else, but I have a hobby and a pastime and a life that is dedicated to introspecting. So Elle's questions are wonderful. That's why Elle and I had a great conversation when we had it. But him, like, if you have to talk to this person, it's like talking to a brick wall. And then he's sitting here like, you guys are militant. Look at the word he used. He used the M word. You're militant. extreme, obnoxious. You're in the streets bothering people. Like, and I'm sitting here like, what are you doing? What are you even doing with your life? You know what I mean?
And you know, points that are grounded in particular, you know, psychology nuances and words and terms and things. Like, they've got thousands of problems that are going on in their life, and I think the food that they eat, being told, you know, having someone tell them that because of their choice in food, that inherently makes them evil monster people. And I think that's probably where the sort of issues come.
So this is interesting because from an empathetic leftist intersectional perspective, we would always take into account food deserts, people's disabilities, health problems, access, food, access to food, wages, all of that stuff. Like, obviously, we've had that conversation here about accessibility and why we can give people tools to have more accessibility to plant-based eating. And at the same time, he's not saying it that way. He's using it as an excuse to not engage versus actually saying, hey, there's a huge problem. What do I do? Now, earlier in the stream, I didn't timestamp it. I didn't think it was important. They're both in the same place. They both have the same access to grocery stores. And Elle personally offered to give him a brands to go look for. Like, that's why he said, I'm never going to change my diet. The clip before that clip was him explaining, was Elle offering to give him the store, where to buy the products, all the stuff that's in a budget, because Elle doesn't make that much money either. And so she has to like really think about how much she's spending. And he was like, oh, I'm not going to actually do that though. She was like, oh, so it's not that you don't have access. It's that you don't want to do it. And that's why I say, well, you have to make sure, am I making an excuse or do I actually struggle with this? So if I gave you access, would you change? And this is why I say even when it comes to introspection, like introspection is hard because we don't know how much access everybody has. But if I gave you access to vegan eating, would you do it? Now, the other side of it is maybe not, because you might not have access to the free will, or you might not actually believe it yet, but you might be in the process of figuring it out. And that's the other part of this that we are empathetic to, is like, even myself, I mean, look at my own journey, right? I that's why I'm patient with people, but not, this type of person is not good faith. This type of person is already made up their mind. They're not going to change it. They're just not going to change it. And that's fine in quotations, but also do they realize that about themselves? Like, do they really understand that, like, you have made up your mind? You have no value, no family. What was his beliefs even? What were even his beliefs? This whole time, has he even expressed anything that tells me what his beliefs are, where he comes from, what background is his? Kind of, but not in the way that he thinks. Some of the red flags, you know, but maybe not the way that he thinks.
Out of the woodwork, and people get heated and people get upset, and they start to, you know, they start to say things that they wouldn't normally say.
Yeah, that's
the disconnect, I think, is probably your main sort of hurdle.
The disconnect of people, yeah, because as you say,
yeah.
I feel, I don't know your mind or anything, but I feel like you thought it was just, or you had a justification, and then you've kind of brought it here and then realized you don't. Did that happen?
Yep.
No, I'm obsessed. I'm not obsessed, but I really like, you know, the sort of like phone-in culture, like old TV radio, sort of, you know, pirate radio sort of thing. And I came across this. I came across some vegan content. I think maybe.
I'll tell you this though, because chat is saying white men have the luxury to not think deeply about issues affecting groups they're not a part of, and the hubris and entitlement to go on her show and waste her time with no preparation or data. I will tell you, Ella has an ongoing beef with a black creator, and he's so bad at making his argumentation. But here's the problem. Black, white, it doesn't matter. If it's a man who hasn't deconstructed under patriarchy, who hasn't taken other people into consideration, if he's not adhering to spiritual or indigenous practices or some sort of connection to the earth, at the end of the day, he's going to be a debate bro, which is what actually happens to Elle, because Elle's in a debate space. And that other creator she has like beef with constantly, it's because he's a debate bro. So if you come into this space with debate bro logic, then at the end of the day, you're going to want to win. And if you're going to want to win, you don't have the humility to consider other people. And that is a training from patriarchy that I think plays into this. And debate bro culture tends to be very white supremacist as well. But I think that's the frustration Elle probably has with a lot of these people, is a lot of the men will make videos about her but not engage with her directly, even though they make plenty of content about anti-veganism and being anti-vegan and hating vegans, and vegans are so annoying. They fall into that trope of like debate bro culture. So I hear you and I agree with you generally. And it is interesting to watch how the planet as a whole, like they are meat eating. Right? They are meat eating, and they're still deconstructing like hierarchy belief systems, and they're still deconstructing this idea because there's so much to this. But I think the debate bro bubble is rotting everyone's brains. I really think it's just a big part of this. So I even told Elle, because you see how there's like an audience. Do you guys see on screen? There's like an audience of 12. Those are other vegans who might chime into the conversation or might not. I told Elle, like, I just want to talk to you, but if other people are there, that's fine, but you have to be there, because I know I had a lot of these vegans like reach out to me, and I don't accept friend requests, and I haven't gone back to anybody because I don't want to talk to just anybody just because you're vegan. I don't want to debate you. I want to talk to people that will talk to me in a way that like is a discussion, and also that I vibe with. And so I'm sure these people are nice. I'm sure everybody's really kind. I just like, I don't accept friend requests just because like you're a vegan who wants to talk to me. And I don't expect anyone to do that for me either. So I think that the dilemma here is like, at the end of the day, there is a debate bro culture part of this that people don't want to be embarrassed. People don't want to be embarrassed, and they don't want to admit they're wrong. I think one of my skills is that I'm okay with being embarrassed. That it's not a hit to my ego to be embarrassed. It's just a sign that I have to do more work. I think for other people, it's like a opportunity to double down, Anyway, just random thoughts on debate bro culture.
Like 6 months ago. And I just found it really interesting watching shorts and watching some live some lives and things. I just thought it was really fascinating. And then I found the Discord and thought, fuck it, sorry, I don't know if I can say that.
Yeah,
I want to talk to one of these people, because when I first got in, I was like, oh my god, these people are crazy, these people are mental. And then the more I've watched, I've realized that you're not crazy, you're not mental, you're all just really passionate about this one thing.
To be clear, we have other passions as well. And
no, of course, but the lens that
I thought you were all fucking crazy, stupid, certifiably insane, should be arrested. But then I realized, no, you're not. You see how he's not taking self-accountability? You're the problem. Why would you think this of me? It's you. You're the one who thought it about me. And it's like, oh my God, I got to know you guys better and you weren't. What? There's like no like humility in the way that he speaks.
To watch you through, it's just centered in this one specific topic.
Okay.
If I'm only ever seeing, that's the other thing. The disconnect is caused by me only seeing you in one view and you only seeing me in one view, because whenever we talk or whenever you talk to these people, it's always about this one topic.
Well, no.
So, I appreciate that.
To be clear, I don't see you as just one person talking about non-veganism. I don't assume to know anything about you at all. It's why I don't take things personally online, because people know nothing about me, and I know nothing about
of course.
So that's why I ask what they're thinking and what they do. But
I will just push back a little bit on this. Yes, you don't know the person you are offline, but I do think your ethics and what you debate does say a lot about you, which is why I've moved away from debating things I don't believe in, which is also common in debate bro bubbles, is you tend to, because I used to debate in high school, and you will have to debate topics that are not your opinions. And so I think we carry that debate culture to the internet, and I think it's important that we don't do that, because on the internet, you are kind of representing yourself. And I think that that's why I don't do that anymore, because I do think what you debate, what you spend your time defending matters. And at some point, even though you're trying to be nuanced and philosophical, if it's the thing you harp on for too long, now it's your brand. And now it's like, oh, that is your value. So just be very careful about like what you spend time debating.
I just want to address something you said earlier. You said about like militant and stringent in-groups and out-groups. I just want to defend the people who you're referring to as militants, because they may have some sort of stringent in-group, out-group. I don't really know what that means. But you, like, no offense or anything, but you have a stringent...
No, it's fine, it's fine, go on.
You have a stringent in-group and out-group mentality that you cannot justify. Here are the
with animals. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a fair point. I think...
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, that with the militants, like, I try not to do this. It is difficult, because we tend to kind of like see patterns and behaviors and stuff like that. But they can justified, probably. I don't know their argumentation, but if they see you as a non-vegan, they know you contribute to animal exploitation.
Yes.
So they may have trouble speaking with you or taking you seriously when it comes to discussions about like rights or respect or something like that. They may find it difficult to have a conversation with you when they've stood outside slaughterhouses moments before, say, for example, pigs have been gassed. Or I've been in farms, I've seen animals dead in bins. I could show you.
Yeah, but there's going to be a judgment like, oh my God, you're overreacting to this thing happening. Or it's like why we got desensitized during 9/11 and after about watching people getting beheaded and stuff. It was like a point of pride. Like, you're crying because you watch someone get beheaded, but I watch that for fun. Or like, I watch that because I'm tough. It's a part of the patriarchy. It's a part of normalizing violence in culture. So they're going to look at a vegan who's crying over the slaughter of an animal and say like, oh my God, you're so pathetic, bro. Or they're going to see someone crying over Palestinian children and be like, oh my God, dude, it's like war. What are you going to do? Like, you got to accept it. That's just how life is. Like, here you are crying for people, but like, that's just how life is. And I do think that that's the part of patriarchy and masculinity, toxic masculinity that needs to be deconstructed. But I think that that's why when, you know, women, especially femmes, get memeified on the internet for being they'll catch them at like a very exaggerated facial expression. You can think of the red-haired patriarchy lady, or the woman who cried like, no, or the woman with like glasses who's like, you know, or you can think of the girl they dubbed Trickly Puff, you know, you can think of like all of these different femme or women, depending, I don't know how they identify, right? But femme presenting, right? Whatever that means to you. People on the internet who get memeified as like, can't get their shit, like they're not calm, you know, they're like yelling and okay. So when we have these conversations, right? Do you remember that infamous clip of a black girl, college girl, went up to an adult man who was black and asked, as a black man, or is that how you identify? And he said, yes, I am a black man. You know, that seemed really fucking stupid at the time to everybody. But if you deep dive into racial segregation or like racial conversations about like, are mixed children black? Like, if your mother's white, are you black? Like, all of this stuff. Like, there's so much nuance to this conversation. It actually like was a pretty fair question, but I know it sounded crazy because that was so long ago now that at the time people thought she was so stupid. But like, honestly, like, it's an interesting question. But that's why, again, what level of conversation are we having? And this is why when we move on to the next topic about the queer collective, a part of me like doesn't even want to post this clip, but I might anyways, because I feel like this is a in-group conversation and the out-group people should not be listening to us talk about this. And a big part of that is because of discrimination and dominance and the hierarchy of where we stand. It's like a threat to us to let the majority know that like, obviously there are problems in our communities, because they take our problems and act like it's going to be weaponized against our whole community, versus acknowledging like the problems in their own fucking communities, as if like white cis men don't have problems, as if the Catholic Church doesn't have problems, as if Trump's administration doesn't have problems. And so there's like all of these layers of like, you have problems too, bro. So even with veganism, it's like, oh, the vegans are crazy. The vegans have problems. Like, they're mental. Instead of thinking about like, we all have problems and every community is trying our best to like mitigate those problems. And then of course, if you're a part of multiple communities at once, like Elle is a lesbian who's also vegan and maybe autistic, like, you know what I'm saying? The intersection of it all means that a lot of us aren't just like in this one bubble. We're like in multitude of communities you know what I'm saying? So it is exhausting, I think, trying to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't understand how deep it goes and how important it is and what a deep relationship with your biological experience you can have. And then they just come and they bother you. They spend their time saying, oh, but answer my questions, answer my questions. And then when you answer their questions, it's like, oh, I'm never going to change my mind though. And you don't know me. So you could never actually like understand where I'm coming from. But like, you just kind of told me where you're coming from on this 1 hour call.
And I think, you know, I think the, if you do have someone that is very much a part of how they feel, and then you get some kid or some person that is just trying to get a reaction or just trying to you know, make their friends laugh or something, says something off the cuff, or not off the cuff, but you know.
See, what are you talking about? What are we talking about now? He's all over the place. My boy got ADHD. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? He went from veganism to be like, what if somebody makes an off the cuff joke? About what?
That person is going to react really heavily to, then again, it's not really the best for anyone. It doesn't move the conversation forward, does it? It just...
Did anything in the way that you came to this call today move the conversation forward? Did anything he brought today's conversation move the conversation forward?
It sort of devolves into, name calling and personal attack.
I feel like people love to talk about talking about the thing we're going to talk about instead of just talking about the thing.
I don't want to cause any offense when I said militant. I just couldn't think of another word in the...
Well, passionate.
In the...
Passionate.
Yeah, passionate, but it's more like, it's more...
I think that's a negative connotation that shouldn't really...
Yeah, Chad says he's shadowboxing himself. I swear to all of the gods above, that's what they're doing. I promise you, Chad, that's exactly what they're doing. And it's very annoying, I think, but it also is it's why I think my framing of the levels is so fucking good, because it's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, who are you talking to? Like, I'm having this conversation and you're like, I want to have this conversation. I'm like, then go have that conversation with someone else. They're like, no, I want to have it with you. And I'm like, okay, but like, I don't want to have that conversation. And it's just like, they're like, and so who are they? I'm like, who are you even arguing with? That's what this whole conversation feels like.
Doesn't merit inserting necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the word propaganda. Like, propaganda doesn't
listen to this.
Actually necessarily mean something negative, but the way that it's used makes it sound negative.
No, but I mean, when is propaganda ever used well?
Well, propaganda is just, if I remember rightly, it's
good.
like, it could be something as good as like, I don't know, I'm wearing seatbelts. If you had like seatbelt propaganda, it would be propaganda.
Right.
I just want it to be bad. But if you called it propaganda, I would think, oh, you think it's bad.
No, the politician. That's when the politicians call it sort of like an educational campaign, or changing hearts and minds of people.
It is neutral, but the dilemma is that it has a lot of baggage. Therefore, nulling it from being neutral. It's true what Elle is saying. That is, propaganda could be, it's just whatever you're, gay propaganda. But because it's been weaponized by Republicans, propaganda. It sounds like everything, but yeah, like the word propaganda, but that's the thing about language. It's like one thing can mean something and there's still baggage attached. Just wait until you get, this next segment about language is going to blow your mind. Get ready, girl. Oh, this is going to be so good. After we're done with this, I can't wait to talk to you about language. But language isn't just like, there's so many iterations of a word in language and the way that it's evolved that you really got to, when we say, like it started in this community, be careful of thinking the origin of a word. Because let me tell you, there are people out here who dedicate their life to knowing the origins of words, and you probably don't know. You probably don't know the history.
It's also propaganda. So, but I'm trying to say...
I'm so sorry.
I
don't mean to cut you off. I have a work meeting in 1 minute. Because I've pushed this as far as I can.
Okay. So that's the end of the...
Can I...
Oh, hold on.
Can I just have this... it's going to take like... 30 minutes, and then I'll be free again, and I'm happy.
Okay, yeah. So, that's the end of the conversation. And if you want, you can go check out Elle's content. Like I said, I'll be talking to her sometime in the future. We're going to talk about veganism as well. Okay, again, the reason I wanted to show you this is because my work is centered around figuring out why people struggle to understand who they are in the story and to understand that they don't understand, and myself included, right? Like, why is it so hard for me to change? If I logically understand veganism and I'm on board, if I've been plant-based for 1.5 years, if I agree that like, I'm not entitled to animal bodies, why aren't I vegan? And it's because I know that taking on the responsibility of a label or a belief system or a construct is more than just me, because we exist multifaceted, us in relationship to ourselves and us in relationship to everything outside of ourselves. Like, everything that I do is, yes, when I'm privately in my home and I'm having a conversation with myself, like, it's one version of Brittany. But the reality is like, I am a community member and I am a public figure. And so what I say in public, like, this is not a private party with my friends. You know what I mean? Like, I have to think about what that means. And so I have to think about the responsibility of saying I'm vegan and what that means. And so I'm going to talk to Elle in the future about it. But I also want you to know, if you're on the Discord or in members, well, this is a member stream today, or if you're in the YouTube comment section, wherever you are, that this is my life's dedication to understanding people better and understanding our relationship to the universe better. So my work isn't just centered on humans. My work is centered around philosophy, which is the love of wisdom, which is all encompassing, period. Like, it's not just about people. When I say I understand humans, that's one aspect of that philosophical understanding. I understand our place in the universe, but without it centering on us, because we couldn't possibly be the center of the universe. That can't possibly be the answer unless it is. And I know a lot of our lore and a lot of our religious backgrounds, a lot of our cultural backgrounds tell us that we are the center of the universe. But again, if we're the center of the universe, we have to prove that. We have to prove that human beings are the center of the universe. And I don't think anyone's ever done that. And I think that that's why I'm much more open to veganism as a concept, because who am I to say that I am the center of the universe at the expense of all of these billions of animal lives that I have grown up in a bubble thinking I'm entitled to? And how does that connect to the entitlement we feel around other human beings, the planet itself, resources, and so on, right? Okay, so now that I've given you a real life example of a person struggling to think deeply, I hope you take this with you today and ask yourself, have I ever been him in this story? And when I'm having a discussion with somebody where I am on the opposing end, am I acting like him? Because he's exactly the kind of person you do not want to be like when it comes to really thinking deeply in that moment. He tried. He wasn't too offensive. He didn't get too defensive, but he definitely came with enough bias and prejudice and a decision that said, I'm not going to change my mind. So he really came into this conversation with a mindset of, I'm not going to change my mind. Then ask yourself, if you're not going to change your mind, why are you wasting my time? Which is why I don't make prescriptions. So I'm not going to change my mind on racism bad, homophobia bad, transphobia bad. So I don't waste my time talking to people, right, about those things. What I do is I open myself and I make myself available for those people who are open to changing their mind to talk to me. Because I'm not going to change my mind. Do not waste your breath on me. Do not try to debate me into a corner where I am not pro-Palestinian. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going to happen. Okay? It's not going to happen. So don't waste your time. And that's where you got to know who you are in the story and why aren't you budging on a point? So again, like, I'm not budging on my point because my point is the closest to harm reduction. Why isn't he budging on his point when his point is closer to harm intensification? Okay, that's the question.